How do you respond when somebody slices all the time? I have several videos out where I'm going over the mechanics of the slice, but those are mostly slices off a regular rally ball, which most recreational players actually hit with topspin. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to respond to somebody who slices a lot when you're not used to it. So to start with, you have to understand what backspin actually is. And this is what it looks like, seen from your perspective. If you're hitting a slice, the ball will have underspin. The racket face has this direction, and it will move the ball this way, as opposed to a topspin that goes the exact opposite way. So we're going to use this red ball now. This is for juniors. And you see with the distinctive different colors, if you can pick up the spin, just slices. So it has backspin. That ball doesn't bounce quite as high. So if Andy now continues to slice and I roll, you now see that I have to override his spin. So I have to really get under the ball. My ball rolls forward and his still has that backspin. So to understand that is already half the battle to my mind. You also want to understand that in addition to manipulating the spin of the ball, a lot of times players who play really good slices manipulate the depth of the ball, the height of the ball, the pace of the ball, and of course, a lot of times the width of the court. So those are the 5 controls, then include the spin, that they can manipulate, that they're trying to impose on you and force errors with that slice to throw off your rhythm. And when we're talking about receiving a slice, I'm actually distinguishing between 2 slices. One is one that I do see quite a bit, and that's more a hacky slice, and it kind of sits. So the reasons why somebody will produce a little bit more of this kind of ball, you see that it goes up, it floats and then sits, it comes straight down or almost straight down and then just goes straight up again. It doesn't travel to you. The reason for that could be that somebody has the wrong grip. And let me tell you, my mom, Gerlinda, played a slice with that, and it was deadly because nobody knew how to deal with that. So yay, mom. And the other reason could be that they're really hacking down on the ball. So that makes the racket face very, very open. The ball goes up, doesn't travel as far. The other option is a more sticky slice, and that's kind of the slice how it's intended when it's a ground stroke. Of course, that under spinny kind of sitting slice can be used for a drop shot because, yeah, it doesn't come to the person. They have to move extra steps, but you really want to work on getting that slice, and you have to respond a little differently to that sticky, knifey slice that really skids through the court, doesn't come up, but still travels to you a little bit, than when you're experiencing that kind of hacky, floaty slice. The first thing, of course, in receiving a slice well is to recognize that your opponent is hitting a slice. So there's a couple of cues that you need to look for. Number 1, a grip change. Most players that have good slices play them with a continental grip. So let's look at it. My regular one-hander looks something like this. Now you see me change the grip, and my take back looks very different. My left arm is higher, and my racket face is open. So that is a dead giveaway. That's going to be a slice. On the forehand, of course, even more of a giveaway because the left hand on the slice separates most of the time a lot sooner. And whereas my racket face is pointing to the side and then down here, even when I have a high take back, my racket face now is open when I'm getting a slice. Another really good one when you're playing a two-hander, which I'm kind of thinking most people now on the backhand play two-handers. They go from a 2, regular backhand here, most all of the time to a one-hander here, and then the left hand is on the throat of the racket. If they're right-hander, of course, lefty, it's the other way around. So you definitely see a difference there from this, a drive, to this. And even if they're starting this type of take back, which I don't see as often, you still see the open racket face. If we have that slightly floatier slice coming in, it doesn't travel to us as much after the bounce. So what happens a lot is that the player is not really recognizing that. They're setting up for their shot, expecting the same bounce as for a topspin, where you have a higher incoming trajectory and it bounces higher and it travels to you a lot more. And they're swinging the same way, stretch, frame it, miss it outright, or produce a very low quality ball. So when you're receiving those floaty balls, you gotta move up to it. You gotta move up and make sure that you let your racket head come under the ball big time, because you want to override the backspin of that slice with your topspin. If you hit the ball too flat, then the ball kind of digs into your string, the backspin digs into your string, and you're kind of lifting it and you're hitting it out. If you react with a topspin, you gotta roll the ball. Somebody hits a sticky slice and you still want to react with a topspin. Double down on exactly the same things. Only you may not have to move up as much. You may have to get even lower, because again, the trajectory is a little flatter, it bounces, it doesn't come up, but it travels to you. So that's really when you see people down here. And to my mind, you cannot get low enough. You can always brush up steeper if you miscalculated how low you have to be, but if you're too high and the slice is coming, then getting under the ball when you're still up here, that's going to be really difficult. Of course, another option to all of that is to respond to a slice with a slice. And especially at higher levels, you then see those backhand slice duels. And what the players are trying to do is just neutralize and keep that ball in a position that their opponent can't do anything with it. So when you're receiving those bitier slices and you do want to respond with a slice, the same goes as with reacting with the topspin. You got to get under the ball there. The more you're upright and you just hack down, the more your ball will basically have a little bit of float on it and it sits up there, and that might give a better player the opportunity to run around and get their forehand, and then you're in trouble. Knowing how to respond to a slice comes in really handy when you play a serve and volleyer, a net rusher, and of course in doubles as well, because any of those slices and volleys, they're backspin. You have to know how to respond to them. And another big help is this, the singles playbook by Fuzzy Yellow Balls. And it lists all the plays that you can run against any type of player that you face in singles. And all you do is simply hover over the QR code and up pops Will Hamilton to explain all the moves so that you win more matches. I'm going to pop the link into the description below, and now let's move on with slicing. That's sitting there and I really have to get up. Otherwise I'm just stretching to the ball and I shank it. So when you see a really high incoming trajectory and you already see a very open racket face when somebody's slicing, or they even have a forehand grip, then you know they're not going to be really bitey. See, this is what happens if I'm not getting up to it. So it had a really high incoming trajectory and it's bouncing high instead of bouncing to me. So two things you have to do when somebody hits a really sticky slice. Your entire body has to go low and your racket head needs to come under that ball so that you can brush up steeply to override that slice. Now that's the other alternative. If somebody hits that sticky slice really short, you use your slice. And since you're that far in already, you might as well transition into net. Here's a little bit of a special case. For instance, you used your slice, your backhand slice or forehand slice to come in with, which is perfect because you're already in the right grip, hopefully your continental grip. The ball is a little lower and slower. They have to lift the ball up to you. If they're trying to hit a topspin, you may get a whole lot of high volleys. But what happens when somebody's actually a really smart player and just tries to neutralize you with a counter slice? Here's what happens a lot. The person coming into volley misjudges that, and what they're usually doing is they just stick the racket out and punch forward, which may not be enough when somebody's slicing, because that backspin basically bites into your strings, and if you're not really punching and working against that ball basically kind of twirls and rolls and whatever, and then it just does this. It just drops down. It's not going anywhere. So you really have to move forward and into the ball and continue to move through the ball when somebody hits a slice. Oh, that's the ball I'm talking about. And what he's trying to do, he's dinking the ball down to my feet. If I'm not moving in, if I'm not really working against that ball literally kind of feels like it spins in my strings, and it literally just goes. If you want to dig into more details of a slice, check out this video here. Unfortunately, Ash Barty has retired, but her slice was golden. And there are so many things that we can all take away from her slice.